There have been so many reports from really good journalists, some of the best in the Arsenal space, about what Arsenal want to do this summer, about transfers, players that we're looking to bring in, what the squad could look like, kicking off next season. Now, the cynic in me does think things haven't gone so well in matches recently. Are these reports emerging now? But I believe them, whether they are or not, whether the timing is deliberate. I actually believe what's out there. I believe the players that we're linked with, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because there are a lot, and there are varying profiles, and we're getting a lot of clarity in terms of the positions that Arsenal want to address as well this summer. So let's go into it, not waste much time, and get into the first reports really that came out since that Bayern defeat. And it comes with The Guardian and Ed Aarons, who said that KSE are set to back Mikel Arteta heavily again, with Alexander Isak and Michael Olise in the search for a striker and a winger. That's very interesting. I think the Isak deal is something we've talked about before. We'll come back to that in a sec. Olise's fascinating. Olise's fascinating as a target because very heavily linked to Man United, nearly joined Chelsea last summer, feels perfect for Man City. Mo Salah's aging, so is it Liverpool, who are in most need for a player of that profile. But could Arsenal end up picking him up? I think he's a different profile to Saka. People will see young left-footed winger who can take players on, but I actually think Saka, when given the freedom of the pitch and playing at his best, he can really take on fullbacks. Olise can take on fullbacks. He's got the trickery and he's got that burst of pace, but I don't think he's a massive sprinter. I think he's more of a technician, and where I've been most impressed with him is his delivery into the box, his weight of pass, his skill in tight areas. And I think if we're to get someone like Michael Olise in this team, and I think there's a release clause, by the way, maybe 65 million, but let me know in the comments below if I've got that right, because I actually haven't seen that. But that's what's being talked about. If we're to get an Olise in the team, then I don't know how that dynamic works with Erdogan on that side of the pitch, because I feel like you've got a lot of combination players and maybe need more of a sprinter runner. Think Riyad Mahrez out on the right for Man City, who'd hug the touchline, take a perfect first touch, and De Bruyne would just power beyond him in that half space, in that inside channel. I think that is how we'd have to readdress the balance if we're to get an Olise. But he's a talent I really, really rate, and I'd love to have him at the club. Now, Isak we've talked about, and again, I love Olise. Isak, should I say? I love both. But with Isak, I mean, this is the video we did where we talked about, why he is the perfect striker, why in so many ways he's exactly what Arsenal need when you're talking about very decent output at this level, young, different kind of height, profile, injury record, I think is a little bit overstated. So I would be looking at an Isak. He is my first choice. He is the one I think Arsenal should go for. He feels like an Arteta player. He feels like an Arteta sign who can drift out into the wide areas. He's got immense flair. I think we'd all have a blast watching Isak, and I think he'd get plenty of goals. Is it a deal that's doable? Well, quite possibly, because this video here, we talked about how the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak might have to be sold by Newcastle, because Newcastle are in a fascinating position where they've got the richest owners in football, I think. They got Champions League football last year. They're on course to get Europe again. They've got some very, very good players and a good manager. You'd think it's all up. But when it comes to things like FFP, PSR, all the financial laws that have to be abided by in this game, Newcastle still sit short when it comes to the revenues brought in by the clubs, but also sales of players. They've not been very good at that. We talked about it in that video if you do want to go watch it. For that reason, Newcastle may have to sell a player or two to sanction some of the big deals they want to, get done to get to that next level. So Newcastle are an interesting team to keep an eye on in this transfer window, not just in terms of incomings, but outgoings as well. Can Arsenal take advantage of that with a deal for Alexander Isak? And if not Isak, could it be someone else? Because David Ornstein, as shared here by ZRAFC, the news aggregator, has said that David Ornstein claims Arsenal and other clubs really like Bruno Guimaraes. He can play in the 8 and 6 positions, and Newcastle hope to keep hold of him. There is a release clause, though. Now, I think I've seen some rumours of a release clause around 100 million. So would Arsenal pay that? I don't know. But when we talk about Newcastle's financial situation, can you bring them down on that? Because actually, are they really going to keep hold of a player they could sell for 70 million when there's a release clause for 100 million? Is even a 70 million pound player Guimaraes? I don't know. And it's not the first time we've been linked with him. I've got to say, I think this is a very weird link. I mean, look, he's only saying that Arsenal really like him. We know this. I'm not trying to tear down what David Ornstein's bringing here. But from this report in 2022, where we saw that Arsenal were linked with Guimaraes, that's when he was at Lyon and he eventually moved to Newcastle in that January window. But you can go back further to 2 years before, January 2020, when the Atletico Paranaense president confirmed that Arsenal were interested in him before he even made his move to Europe. Edu and Arteta were at the club at that time. So Bruno Guimaraes has been an Arsenal target and an admired player for a very, very long time. Makes me wonder if we're going for Lucas Paqueta when you look at all these players we've been linked with before. That anyway, maybe that's just one I'm dropping in there. But it's a strange link for that reason. We could have got him for cheaper before and maybe a bit more expensive, but again cheaper after that. Would we do this deal now when he's going to cost 2-3 times the price he'd have gone for before? The other reason I find this link weird is because is Guimaraes the personality Arteta wants in the team? I see when his head gets hot in games, he charges around kicking people and just losing his head a little bit. And I think Arsenal this season have been a lot better at keeping a lid on things. And, you know, I haven't got over, but, you know, I'll remember the Jorginho elbow to the head. Like, I don't like that trait in our players, but I do think he's an immensely talented player. No, I'm talking about one incident, but I don't know. He seems someone that doesn't quite fit in the way people are critical of Ivan Toney's personality and that fitting with this Arsenal group. I kind of have those same reservations about Bruno Guimaraes, though I totally acknowledge he's a really top player. I think he's very good. I think profile-wise he is perfect for our midfield as the 6 or as the 8. So I'll keep an eye on this. I'd be amazed if we sign Bruno Guimaraes, but I'm not surprised we're looking for a player like him. Now, Sami Mokbel, always at the heart of Arsenal news, has come out with this, saying that Arsenal have identified 3 positions to strengthen this summer. Money is available, and yeah, he talks about Wolves and post-Munich, but we're not going to focus on that. What he does say, he talks about quite a few things and said that it's no secret that Arsenal want a new striker this summer, but intriguingly, they have also placed a new left-back and midfielder on the summer checklist. I don't think the midfield reinforcement is that surprising. The left-back, potentially. We had been linked with Joral Hato of Ajax. I don't think that's a deal we'll do this summer. We've also been linked with Ousmane Diomande, who we talked about in last week's video. Again, do you get him to address the left back in a different way because he can play centre back, therefore Timber, Tomiyasu exclusively fullbacks with Kivior playing there? I don't know, but that's another way to address the defensive situation. He does mention as well that up front Sesko and Gyokeres have been linked, and when I look at them, Sesko's got a lot of very raw potential. I think could and will become a really good striker, scoring bags goals around Europe. Gyokeres at 25-26. I don't know, the one thing about him compared to Alexander Isak, I think Isak is more the flary Arsenal type, but maybe we need to move away from that. Maybe we've got a Jesus, we've got a Martinelli, we've got a Trossard who can play up front, not in quite that same way, but are more similar stylistically to a Gyokeres, who is just a powerhouse. He's just a unit, he's a goal scorer. He feels to me, with the little I've known, the little I've watched him, he looks to me a player that, yeah, can make things happen for himself, but is just like a real handful up front and a proper gunman. And maybe that is what we need more in this squad. I still think Isak is more what I'd lean towards, because Gyokeres only not even had one full season before that he was at Coventry, but of course doing very well. So I don't know, I'm apprehensive on all these links. I don't think there's one that I go, that is the guy, that is definitely the striker we should go for. But it's interesting that Sesko, Gyokeres, Isak, these names keep coming up. James Ollie has also said that Arsenal have long held an interest in signing Ivan Toney, but it's also within the club repeatedly said they're now looking at other options, which is interesting. He also mentions that Victor Gyokeres is one of those players that have been linked. And if we just go back to the whole left-back stuff discussed by Sami Mokbel, Gunnerblog, aka James McNicholas at The Athletic, said that Zinchenko has 2 years remaining on his Arsenal contract, typically the moment when clubs decide whether to renew or sell. At a time when Arsenal have negotiated deals for Saka, Saliba and Ødegaard with impressive efficiency, they have not yet entered significant talks with Zinchenko. Maybe Arsenal are in no rush to get that deal signed and sealed. Maybe tells you that they just don't see him as crucial to the future and the project as some of these other players that quite clearly are in Saka, Saliba and Ødegaard. Everyone, there's been a lot there, a lot of different reports, a lot of different links. Let me know in the comment section below who of these players you want. Are there others you'd add there? And what alternatives are there? Nico Williams has been linked. Pedro Neto has been linked. Who in midfield? I dropped in Lucas Paqueta there. Are we going to enter another saga with West Ham? Please no. I don't know. It gets very interesting as we approach this summer transfer window. I do think these links to a degree are out there because of the bad results, and they're trying to let people know, look, Arsenal are going to be busy this summer. Don't worry, we're going to address all this. But ultimately, if I'm really, really kind of blunt, obviously it's interesting to read all this. It's great that we're linked with these players, but I don't care right now. I'll worry about that in June. Right now, we still have lots to play for in the Premier League. It's Wolves on the weekend, and we have to keep putting the pressure on City, because we can still win this league, and we've got to keep fighting until it's not doable. And I just want to say a really big thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, actually hit the links right here to watch more content like this, including my Football First podcast, which drops every Monday to Friday at 6 AM. And I know it's annoying, I am really sorry to have to ask, but if you want to show support to the channel, hitting the like and subscribe buttons help promote the content much more than you could possibly know. Thanks again.